Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is up in the polls. That's despite something like, 80, 90 indictments and hundreds of years potentially in prison. Of course, he won't even spend, thank God, not even 1 second in jail or prison, because all of these cases are so absurd, overtly political. They are the definition of political partisanship and going after your direct political rivals. That's what Democrats accused Trump of. It was all projection this whole time. None of these cases are actual crimes. We know this because in each of the case, in every single indictment, it's never happened before in U.S. history. These are statutes that have never been used against a former president. But hit subscribe to this channel right now. Let's listen to President Trump, and then we'll get to legal scholars talking about the Supreme Court victory. This is President Trump today.
All right, thank you very much. I appreciate it. We had a long day in court, as always, but very happy about the way things are going. The fact is that we're looking outside and we're seeing all of the things that are taking place in our economy, with inflation, with the kind of numbers that are being announced. We're seeing all of the crime that's going on outside, and to be sitting in this courtroom over this is just ridiculous. It's election interference at the highest level. Never been done before in our country. And I should be out campaigning right now, and I want to be out campaigning like I was yesterday. We finally had a break, and I was out campaigning yesterday. Very unfair. There's never been anything like this in the history of our country. Never. So we're doing well. The polls are extremely good despite that. The polls are extremely good, the best we've ever had, and it looks like we're doing very well. Any question?
Would you debate RFK Jr.?
RFK, I don't know anything about him. Look, RFK is polling very low. He's not a serious candidate. They say he hurts Biden. I don't know who he hurts. He might hurt me. I don't know. But he has very low numbers, certainly not numbers that he can debate with. And he's got to get his numbers up a lot higher before he's credible. But the numbers that he's taken away, they say will be against Biden. I don't know. I'm not so sure. It could be a little bit against me, but I don't see him as a factor.
Who's your favorite right now?
My favorite for what?
Vice President.
Oh, who's my favorite for Vice President? Well, I'll be making that determination sometime prior to the convention.
What do you think about the candidacy testimony?
Well, I'm not allowed to testify. I'm under a gag order, I guess. Right? I can't even testify on that. No, we're going to be appealing the gag order. I'd love to answer that question. It's a very easy question, the easiest question so far. But I'm not allowed to testify because this judge, who's totally conflicted, has me under an unconstitutional gag order. Nobody's ever had that before. And we don't like it, and it's not fair. Other people are allowed to do whatever they want to us, and I'm not allowed, as a presidential candidate, the leading candidate, the Republican Party nominee, and the one who's leading Biden by a lot, I'm not allowed to talk. There's never been any abuse like this before. This conflicted judge ought to get out of this case. He should not be having this case. He gives us nothing. It's such a rigged court. So I'm not allowed to testify because of an unconstitutional gag order. We're appealing the gag order, and let's see what happens. Thank you very much.
What did you think of the...
So, ladies and gentlemen, before the Supreme Court has essentially already sided with Trump. And by the way, Paul Bartlett, thank you again, as always. My God, Paul, thank you. You are absolutely wonderful. In Australia, thank you. Nicholas, Paul, thank you so very much. To my viewers in Australia, thank you. Trump is up 1.5 points. That's without any positive media support. Mashed Potato Brains, our current president, is down in almost every poll, every swing state poll. Now, when the Supreme Court, and they've shown their cards. I've been telling you for months. I told you there'd be a 9-0 Supreme Court victory for Trump, overturning the Colorado ban. The Supreme Court is going to side with Trump. You'll see these poll numbers go up. Trump will likely be convicted with the hush money case, which is immediately going to be overturned on appeal. Who knows when the appeal will take place, a year from now, a little bit more than a year from now. But his poll numbers will go up, even after being indicted for the hush money or convicted potentially. Here's why. This is Jonathan Turley. Hit subscribe if you're new to the channel. Check this out.
Well, they're doing a good job, largely allowing the case to collapse on its own weight. You know, this case thus far is about as good a model of prosecution as the Titanic is a good model for navigation. I mean, I don't understand why they would start with Pecker. In my view, he's disastrous. You know, first of all, I'm speaking as a criminal defense attorney. Most good prosecutors, if they know that the criminal defense attorney is going to bring up something damaging, will bring it up themselves. And the most damaging aspect of Pecker's testimony is that he did the same thing for a wide variety of celebrities. I mean, that is really quite damaging. And by not revealing that to the jury in your direct, there is a sense that there was a hiding of the ball here. You can lose credibility with the jury. I mean, because that's really quite remarkable. Pecker said that he was doing this for Trump decades before he ran for office. He said he did this for people like Schwarzenegger. Was he trying to get Schwarzenegger elected president? Because he can't be president. So at what point did the prosecutors think that this was going to come out, and why they didn't bring it out themselves? So today it'll be interesting. The key here for the defense is don't rough this guy up. He's not been a bad witness. He's testifying with a gun to his head. He has an agreement with prosecutors, and he's actually given you some very good stuff. So I would be very careful not to start taking wild swings at this guy.
Jonathan, you and I have talked about the fact that we know of at least a couple of attorneys we think who are part of this jury pool and now officially on.
By the way, tomorrow or the next day, I think it's tomorrow, Michael Cohen testifies. It's probably going to be a train wreck. The cross-examination is going to be absolutely something to behold. The man has committed perjury numerous times, according to reports. He paid from his own money. He started a corporation, paid from his own money. The only reason he turned on Trump is because of crimes that he committed. And his lawyers were defending Trump 5 years ago. And Cohen was suing BuzzFeed because he was cited in the Steele dossier, which actually led to the FEC fining Clinton and the DNC, the Clinton campaign. So you couldn't get more corrupt and despicable and deceitful than the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats trying desperately to just put in the headlines that Trump is a felon. That's all they want. And for the people who aren't into politics, who don't know what's going on, that might be stunning or shocking. For people who have even a cursory knowledge of politics, they'll know it's purely political and partisan. And they're just desperate to go after Trump. They're ripping apart the rule of law. And his poll numbers will go up. So anyway.
The jury, how much does that help potentially President Trump's team? There's been a lot made of that because while a lot of what's being presented may sound, dirty or unseemly to the average person out there, if it doesn't amount to a crime, and Alvin Bragg is doing something very unique in trying to get to that place, are having, folks like professionals on the jury, is that going to help?
Shannon, I have always opposed attorneys being on a jury. As a criminal defense attorney, I never want them on a jury. The reason is not to have any disparaging remarks about these two attorneys. I have no reason to believe that they won't be unbiased. But they just simply have too much authority in that room. This case has no crime that is discernible. Many of us are still debating, second week into this case, what was the crime Trump was trying to conceal? If one of those attorneys states in that jury room that they think that is a perfectly valid indictment, it probably will carry some weight. The key is that it takes a lot for people to stand up, even in a jury room, and be that one or two person to say, I have doubts. Particularly in New York, when you have doubts of a conviction of Donald Trump. To have an attorney weigh in at that moment could silence those dissenting voices. That's why I think it's a bad idea, and I don't think it's a good thing to have two attorneys on this jury.
Okay, Jonathan, since now everyone's had a chance to have a sleep, I don't know if it was a good night's sleep.
So they will likely convict Trump. There's a possibility that I'm not going to tell you that it's categorical. I was saying it's going to be 9-0 with the Supreme Court overturning the Colorado ban. I can't tell you. I think that likely he'll be convicted just because the jury is the court is so desperate to imprison Trump. I will say that his poll numbers will go up. His poll numbers will go up if he's convicted because everyone on the planet knows it's just Democrats desperate to convict and imprison their political rival, and Trump will not even face 1 second in jail. You'll hear Justice Roberts in a second. I've been telling you he's going to get partial immunity, and he's getting partial immunity. I told you this before. All of the publications now are kind of accepting defeat and accepting a Trump victory. Trump's going to win in potentially a landslide this year, people. Okay? So we're going to party and have a beautiful time in November. And Paul Bartlett and Nicholas and everybody here around the world, wherever you're listening, around the world, in the Philippines, in Australia, New Zealand, the UK, Canada, Nigeria, Nepal, Korea, anywhere around the world you're watching this channel, H.A. Goodman on YouTube, I thank you very much. God bless you, and it's going to be awesome. November is going to be one of the most historic, hopefully beautiful months in American history. The trajectory will return back to hopefully some greatness and some positivity. What we had with Trump was a media meltdown. The wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats who are completely inept at governing. You look at the catastrophe in terms of foreign policy, and I said there would be a catastrophe. I told everybody, but we had a great foreign policy with Trump. We had a great economic policy. Biden comes in, makes it more difficult for oil and gas companies to operate, then blames American oil and gas, then begs other countries to give us this energy, and then prices go up. Who could have predicted that? Maybe the oil and gas companies that sued Biden. But anyway, let's continue. This is Justice John Roberts. You will hear him every segment because he's pretty awesome. Justice Thomas, Justice Alito rips them a new one. Gorsuch does a great job also. I mean, it's going to be 6-3. It'll be 6-3, 5-4, or 6-3. I think 6-3 in terms of partial immunity for Trump. But here, this is an amazing exchange between the special counsel, between Justice Roberts and the special counsel. The special counsel gets taken to task here. The special counsel argument is completely eviscerated. You cannot accuse Trump or any president of broad and ambiguous crimes. They did not accuse Trump of a burglary. They accused Trump of intentionally trying to deceive the country through legal means. They're accusing Trump of defrauding the United States of America through a speech. Okay? That's how absurd things have become. It is so antithetical to the truth. It's unbelievable. The Federal Bureau of Investigation did not find there was a concerted effort to rebel or do anything of the sort. Trump used the word peaceful. He did not want to impede or obstruct an official proceeding. His intent was to tell the world that Democrats treated him the way they treated Bernie Sanders in 2016. He felt that he was railroaded, and he had enough evidence to claim that. Now, the rebuttal is, there was no direct evidence. There was no direct evidence with the Mueller probe, yet they investigated with cross-examination, people under oath. Not one county or state-level official testified under oath, under cross-examination with penalty of perjury. None of Trump's major claims were debunked. Not a one major claim. All you had was journalists intent on destroying or ruining Trump and, disparaging him, saying, "Oh, we spoke to the state and county level official, and Trump is lying." Well, okay, that's not the way the Mueller probe was prosecuted or investigated. But anyway, hit subscribe, listen to Justice Roberts. He completely eviscerates the special counsel.
So the Court of Appeals below, whose decision we're reviewing, said, quote, "A former president can be prosecuted for his official acts because the fact of the prosecution means that the former president has allegedly acted in defiance of the laws." Do you agree with that statement?
Well, I think it sounds tautologically true, but I want to underscore.
My goodness, Samuel Stafford, thank you. Paul Bartlett, thank you so much. Samuel, thank you so very much as always. My goodness, to my super chat, I cannot thank you enough. And your support throughout the next, 5, 6, 7, 8 months will be extremely important. So just thank you so much, Samuel. And I'm so glad. Please be here, Samuel and Nicholas and Paul and everybody here in November. Trump will win it could be a landslide. It could be close, but he'll win. I don't understand the mentality of people who think Biden will win. This is a very bizarre, almost, I don't know. I mean, you have to be hypnotized or some kind of what substance has to impair your ability to see things clearly if you think Biden will win. I don't get it. Trump is up in every major poll, and he hasn't even been campaigning. He hasn't even won the Supreme Court victory he'll win in June regarding immunity. So, Samuel, be here in November, and thank you so very much. So kind of you.
For his official acts.
By the way, they say here, Roberts says, wait a second, you can't just accuse him of and say that he doesn't have any protections or immunity, because they say that he has no immunity because we've accused him of crimes. That makes no sense. Here's Roberts again.
Whose decision we're reviewing said, quote, "A former president can be prosecuted for his official acts because the fact of the prosecution means that the former president has allegedly acted in defiance of the laws." Do you agree with that statement?
Well, I think it sounds tautologically true, but I want to underscore that the obligation of a president is to take care that the laws are faithfully executed.
Well, I think it sounds tautologically true as well, and that, I think, is the clearest statement of the court's holding, which is why it concerns me. As I read it, it says simply, a former president can be prosecuted because he's being prosecuted.
Well, I would not suggest that that's either the proper approach in this case or certainly not the government's approach. A prosecution does, of course, invoke federal criminal law. The allegations have to be presented to a grand jury, which votes upon the indictment.
Well, that's what I mean, shortly.
And the entire process could be manipulated into prosecuting your direct political rivals.
After that statement in the court, that court's opinion, that's what they said, but there's no reason to worry because the prosecutor will act in good faith, and there's no reason to worry because a grand jury will have returned the indictment. Now, you know how easy it is in many cases for a prosecutor to get a grand jury to bring an indictment, and reliance on the good faith of the prosecutor may not be enough in some cases. I'm not suggesting here. So if it's tautological, and those are the only protections that the Court of Appeals below gave, and that is no longer your position, you're not defending that position, why shouldn't we either send it back to the Court of Appeals or issue an opinion making clear that that's not the law?
Well, I am defending the Court of Appeals judgment, and I do think that there are layered safeguards that the court can take into account.
There are no safeguards to protect anyone from the Democratic Party and all of media leveling absurd allegations and getting those allegations, making sure those allegations morph into indictments which could potentially lead to imprisonment for hundreds of years, in this case for Trump. There are no safeguards. If there's not one Trump supporter at the Washington Post or New York Times or MSNBC or CNN or The Atlantic or Vanity Fair, Esquire, New Yorker, not one Trump supporter, not one major Trump supporter in late night or all of Hollywood. I mean, I'm talking about, the industry itself. There are amazing, amazing supporters of Trump who are legends. Roseanne Barr, for example, is a legend. I love Roseanne. And she is a strong, intelligent, brilliant supporter of Trump. So, and she's a Hollywood legend. John Voight. There's a number of people, but the industry itself, in addition to media, in addition to intel officials, so he has an entire apparatus against him. And yeah, there are no safeguards against that.
That will ameliorate concerns about unduly chilling presidential conduct. That concerns us. We are not endorsing a regime that we think would expose former presidents to criminal prosecution in bad faith, for political animus, without adequate evidence. A politically driven prosecution would violate the Constitution under Waite versus United States. It's not something within the arsenal.
It would only violate the Constitution if you admitted that you're doing it for political purposes. This is obviously all political, but Democrats have done this through legal means.
Of prosecutors to do. Prosecutors take an oath. The Attorney General takes an oath.
By the way, you can use 18 U.S. Code 371 literally against the people trying to prosecute Trump. From Biden throughout his administration, special counsel, etc. You go look at that statute. I wrote an article in the Federalist about that statute and how people who perpetuated the Mueller probe or the hoax, the absurd myth that Trump worked with the Kremlin, you can use that statute against these people.
So, well, I don't want to overstate Your Honor's concern with potentially relying solely on good faith. But that's an ingredient, and then the courts stand ready to adjudicate motions based on selective prosecution, political animus. This court relied on those very protections in the Vance case just 2 years ago.
But what concerns me is, as you know, the Court of Appeals did not get into a focused consideration of what acts we're talking about or what documents we're talking about because of its adoption of what you termed, and I agree quite correctly, as a tautological statement, because the fact of prosecution was enough to take away any official immunity. The fact of prosecution, they had no need to look at what courts normally look at when you're talking about a privilege or immunity question.
Well, I think I would take issue, Mr. Chief Justice, with the idea of taking away immunity.
And now there's a little bit, with all due respect, doublespeak here. There is immunity. It doesn't have to be within the text of the Constitution. Central intelligence and the intelligence agencies and the Department of Energy are not within the text of the Constitution. So the rebuttal is, well, there's no immunity stated. Yeah, well, everybody, he's commander-in-chief. With that comes the constitutional rulings that protect the commander-in-chief. So obviously there's a lot of immunity. Nixon v. Fitzgerald is an example. So, I mean, this doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand what's going on. This is just a high school class where the Democrats are the 80s cool kids and Trump is like, this kind of rebel, and they're all trying to ruin his life, and he still comes out. It's like an amazing John Hughes, God bless his soul, movie.
There is no immunity that is in the Constitution unless this court creates it today. There certainly is no textual immunity. We do not submit that that's the end of the story. United States versus Nixon wasn't a textually based case. Neither was Nixon versus Fitzgerald. We endorse both of those holdings. But what is important is that no public official has ever had the kind of absolute criminal immunity that my friend speaks of, even with respect to the speech or debate clause. It's very narrow. It's focused on legislative acts. It's not focused on everything that a congressman does. And it responds to a very specific historical circumstance that basically involved the two other branches potentially harassing legislators and preventing them from doing their jobs. That's why it ended up in the Constitution. Nothing like that ended up in the Constitution for the presidents, and that's because one of the chief concerns of the framers was the risk of presidential misconduct. They labored over.
Why are you? This is just like what happened with the Colorado Supreme Court lawyers. Whenever they start giving a lecture, a lecture on history, the history of this country, to the justices, they're already admitting defeat. Don't go. Democrats, if they want to imprison Trump, shouldn't go into the mindset of the framers, because this is the antithesis of what the framers wanted.
Over this. They adopted an impeachment structure that separated removal from office as a political remedy from criminal prosecution. This departed from the British model. The British model was you get impeached and criminally prosecuted and convicted in the same proceeding. The framers did not want that. They wanted a political remedy in case a president was engaging in conduct that endangered the nation. He could be removed. He can't be prosecuted while he's a sitting president.
And yet he could be easily convicted in the Senate of high crimes and misdemeanors, which he was, and he was acquitted. Everybody knows what's going on. They use very broad, defrauding the U.S. legal statutes. They did not actually, the crime itself, there's no crime. A speech is legal. Presidents can perform speeches. They can speak to political allies. They can speak to their political party. They can speak to their administration officials. They can speak to anyone they want to in numerous states. When Trump speaks to anyone, it's say, oh, he pressured them. This is a subjective, opinionated statement. He didn't pressure anyone. Trump never pressured anyone. If he did pressure them, then these people would have done what he wanted. So it's like, it's unbelievable. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. Samuel Stafford, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Teddy, and everybody here. Thank you. Paul Bartlett, Samuel Stafford, thank you so much. Everybody, be here. Be here in November. Look, every single day. Every single day. And for the people who are watching in the upload, the replay of this, if you happen to be watching, listening to this, just remember, every single day until November is a countdown to November. Okay? We are going to have, ladies and gentlemen, the most important, really the most important and consequential and historic and beautiful election. Really, I mean, this is going to be historic for a number of reasons. Okay, we can decide where we go as a country. So November 5th, 2024, every day from here until November 5th is a countdown. Okay? A countdown. It's a countdown, ladies and gentlemen. And it's like the Super Bowl, the World Series, the Masters, the Rugby Championship, the World Cup. I mean, everything rolled into one. The Academy Awards, when the Academy Awards meant something. Everyone's birthday, Thanksgiving, Christmas. It will be all rolled into one. And it'll be beautiful. So be here. We're going to have a really special, awesome, amazing live stream on this channel. And I'm just honored and thankful that everyone here, I'm honored that I get to speak to all of you throughout the world. I'm just very thankful and blessed. God bless you all. I'll see you tomorrow, everybody. Again, thank you again to my super chat. Have a great, great day and evening.